Perhaps the most jaded Bitcoiners will recognize several of Ray Dalio's investment theories. It's an interesting point to say, considering Dalio's long-held conviction that Bitcoin is prone to bubbles and could be sanctioned by the government. Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund in terms of assets, oversees algorithmic portfolios for megacorporations, sovereign wealth funds, and municipal pension plans, and its founder views corporate finance from a macro perspective. Dalio credits the founder's unorthodox approach to capital and credit for much of the company's success. The vast majority of what people confuse for money is really credit, and it vanishes. People discovering that much of what they thought was their money isn't really there, as suggested by this, is a big part of the deleveraging process, Dalio wrote at the height of the financial crisis in a 2008 blog post titled, How the Economic Machine Works and How It Is Reflected Now, which was updated in 2011. Bitcoiners, on the other side, argue that fiat money, money that has little value because it is backed by a sovereign, is a mirage. Bitcoin is a digital currency that was created to offer an option to a system under which the Federal Reserve can print money forever and private banks can increase the money supply by providing loans. Bitcoin is a unit with brakes. Dalio recognized the possibility of the economic machine failing. As early as 2006, he expected a financial climate buoyed by money printing and reliant on highly leveraged positions for returns. Income were outstripped by debt. In early 2007, his firm reported that there was $839 billion in bad debt in the United States that might implode, which he introduced to the U.S. Treasury Department as an unheeded siren song. Furthermore, Dalio claimed that heavily indebted countries only had one option: print more money to pay off their public and private debts. Money printing, in addition to devaluing the dollar, would lower interest rates and drive investors towards cheaper, hedge securities. In 2011, he told The New Yorker, "There hasn't been a case in history that they haven't finally printed money and devalued their currencies." Bridgewater's main pure alpha investment adopted a cautious approach prior to the 2008 financial crisis. It bought gold and other commodities while shorting treasury bonds and longing the currency. Bridgewater more than withstood the subsequent slump when the housing bubble burst. Pure alpha returned about 9.5% in 2008, 45% in 2010, and 23% in 2011, all during years where the average hedge fund was most likely losing capital. Its assets under management more than doubled from $50 billion at the beginning of the crisis to $100 billion in 2011. Dalio was not isolated in his reflections on monetary arrogance. About the same time as Bridgewater was shorting Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto was coding it. In the first block, Bitcoin's mission statement was written. The Times, 3 January 2009. Chancellor on brink of second bank bailout, according to the Times. The world's first digital, hard-capped financial network is now operational. Dalio's unconventional views have held his fund atop the rankings, giving him the moniker, Wall Street's oddest duck. The $150 billion fund consistently outperforms investor expectations in a market where higher funds are only assured. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, a very new financial beast, was the best performing asset during the last decade, returning 230% on an annualized basis. What, then, might explain the odd duck's Bitcoin pessimism? Dalio, who declined to comment for this article, identifies himself as a hyperrealist, or someone who is obsessed with uncovering the world's underlying mechanisms. He reads research, is skeptical of emotional thinking, and observes cultural developmental tendencies. Investing, like wild game hunting, is a high-risk, zero-sum game that requires advanced planning to gain an advantage. His principles, a set of approximately 300 hard-learned lessons and aphorisms regarded as the Tao of Dal, encourages radical openness. Any Bridgewater recruit is supposed to read and internalize the following message: the world is understandable, and certain people know better than others. Meetings are being videotaped and analyzed. Underlings are reportedly supposed to speak out about their superiors, but not behind their superiors' backs. It's likely that Dalio's commitment to the truth-finding process is what attracted him to Bitcoin in the first place. He switched to Reddit and Twitter to talk about banking. Dalio has recently reported that inflationary forces are at work and that the traditional financial system is on the brink of collapsing. And, despite recently arguing that Bitcoin failed as an inflation strategy, he now says that Bitcoin will not withstand our scrutiny if a new alt cash fund were launched.